Welcome to Off-Grid News, the news that's not fit to print. New York breaks previous record. In an attempt to break New York's previous record, they completely smashed it. New York recorded more than 380,000 positive virus cases Thursday, which broke Wednesday's record by 10,000 cases. In a statement, one elated official said, "These mandates are really paying off. We're hoping to hit 100,000 a day by next week." Federal data reveals that young people are more likely than ever to stay out of the labor force while living at their parents' home. In 1990, 15% of the 25 to 34-year-olds, men without bachelor's degrees, lived with their parents. Since then, the number has risen to 25%. When you have lower testosterone levels in men with soy burgers, they have no drive to or take care of families, said one feminist group spokesperson who talked in a very deep voice. Dr. Fauci on Sunday said that he was stunned when former President Trump was booed by his supporters when he told them he had received the booster. Fauci continued, "I've never seen anything like it. It was like they were thinking for themselves." He then said he was going to go back to the drawing board to con these people to stop thinking. He says, "I was convinced making Trump do this would work." Fauci said virus cases will go much higher as Omicron spreads continues. When asked what they plan to do about it to stop it, he said, "We will continue the same measures we've been doing all year and expect different results." After the interview was over, he was heard saying over a hot mic, "These fools don't even realize everything is going as planned. What idiots!" Except the Trump supporters. Got to fix that. Is this thing on? The Omicron virus appears to be much milder, with reports suggesting that the virus is up to 70% less likely to hospitalize you. One symptom that is different than past variants is loss of appetite. "This is very concerning," a spokesperson said. "If people start losing weight, they will be more healthier. This may cause people to resist the next variant altogether." Door-to-door teams armed with vaccines will be sent to the homes of unvaccinated Brits. Fauci said that is a fantastic idea to get Trump supporters vaccinated. Wait, our people have the Second Amendment and the Fifth Amendment. That dang Constitution. FEMA wants to give families up to $9,000 for virus funerals. Only one condition applies. You must pay your death tax first. More than 2,700 flights have been canceled since Christmas Eve because of the recent virus surge, has resulted in crew shortages that were fully vaccinated. Dr. Fauci said, "I told you I didn't want you going on Christmas activities. Now look what you went and made me do." Pfizer's antiviral pill could be risky with other widely used medications. These new pills are the first at-home treatment pills and were just recently approved by the FDA. However, these pills could have life-threatening interactions with blood thinners, statins, and depressants. One person standing in the pharmacy line waiting to get her prescription filled for the new pill said, "I feel much safer dying from this pill now it's been approved by the FDA." Chicago's Mayor Lightfoot gave a nice Christmas present to the citizens of Chicago. After her efforts to defund the police, 18 people were shot on Christmas Eve. Mayor Lightfoot said in a statement, "The defund the police seems to be working. Police are no longer shooting people. The only thing we have to stop now is those guns walking around looking for their next victim." VP Harris told Face the Nation that democracy is our biggest national security challenge. One supporter of VP Harris said, "I agree. Things would be so much better without democracy. Heck, Trump wouldn't even have been president. Hillary would still be in office." Two high-ranking officials in the California Department of Education resigned when the media found out they did not live in California. One lived in Pennsylvania and the other lived in Texas, which is ironic, considering California bans on state travel to Texas. When asked why he lived in Texas, he said, "Are you kidding? Have you seen how terrible California's education system is? I can't raise my kids there. California literacy is 50th in the state." Pennsylvania has been revising historical markers along roadways throughout the state. When asked why they were being changed, one spokesperson said, "The only way to accurately tell history is by changing it." One conspiracy theorist said, they could use that time machine they got in Area 51. NBC reports that Trump His fixation on 2020 is putting him at odds with his biggest fans, which is completely different than NBC's fixation on Trump, which is putting them at odds with their paying customers. Fauci said more virus tests will be available next month. When asked why it's taking so long, he said President Trump waited too long to order them for President Biden. Trump should have predicted the Omicron variant, even though I had no idea what to tell him when he asked me about it last year. Buccaneers wide receiver Antonio Brown chastised the media when one reporter asked him about his suspension for using a fake vaccine passport. One supporter said, "Look, he's a role model for children. You need to stress how important it is to lie, cheat, and steal to get what you want. And stop focusing on the drama." Supreme Court Justice Chief Roberts received the highest rating among the leaders across the three branches of government as a good leader. Number 2 was Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. Ironically, he's neither a federal employee or a branch of government. It is literally a private organization. Number 3 was Anthony Fauci, not a leader of the executive branch. That would be the president. Lowest ranked leader was Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell at number 34. President Biden ranked near the bottom at 43. In other news, schools have stopped teaching math, American history, or any other subject that would make this headline make sense. U.S. President Biden signs $770 billion defense bill. The president said, "This is great news. Now we'll be able to have enough money to make sure everyone in the military is vaccinated and fly immigrants crossing the southern border to any state they want to go." Omicron variant is sending daily caseloads in parts of the U.S. soaring to levels higher than last year. Blue states, Delaware, Hawaii, Massachusetts, and New Jersey, have reported more cases in the last week than any other 7-day period. Experts warn that this variant will lead to many more deaths for the unvaccinated than in previous variants, despite no one has died from the virus unless, of course, you read Reuters. VP Harris says U.S. will lose its role model status if Congress fails to pass voting right legislation. She said, "How will we teach other nations how to pull boxes of ballots out of the closet at 3 a.m. if we don't get this legislation passed?" Omicron spreads global gloom over the New Year's celebration. Dr. Fauci, President Biden, WHO, and Australia leaders are very depressed. They can't get people to stay home during the Omicron crisis. Australia records first Omicron death. 80-year-old man who was on his deathbed prior to being infected died from Omicron variant. When asked if he could have died from old age, the health official said, "You can only die from the virus." In other news, man driving 200 miles an hour on a motorcycle hits concrete barrier and instantly dies from the virus. U.S. health officials on Monday cut isolation restrictions for Americans who catch the virus from 10 days to 5 days, and similarly shortened the time that close contact needs to quarantine. When asked the dramatic change, the CDC said, "It doesn't seem American people believe us anymore, so we just as well reduce the requirement." Then was asked, why not just get rid of the requirement for quarantine? In which she said, "No, we can't give up complete control of the American people." In keeping with his thirst for power, Fauci said vaccine mandates for domestic flights will be considered. One New York frequent flyer said, "Whew, I was worried that government was losing control after the CDC reduced quarantine requirements." In an attempt to impeach Trump for a third time, Capitol panel will investigate a call Trump made hours before the protests at the Capitol. When asked, Jerry Nadler said, "We've got to impeach him again and again and again, so he will never commit the crime of running for president again." Biden said pandemic needs to be solved at the state level because he can't remember which lie they want him to tell next. He said it really needs to be at the state level. What was I saying? Cost of passports will go up $20 as prices go up across the nation due to inflation. When asked why, the State Department said, "We need a raise. Have you seen the prices of things?" Forgetting he said the states need to take lead on Omicron measures, Biden said the federal government will do everything in its power to slow the spread, which includes reducing quarantine times, giving the lead to states, and anyways, you know what I mean. China removed all limitations on foreign automakers who owns operations in China. One California resident said, "This is great. It will lift the carbon requirement that keeps some automakers from making affordable cars in the United States. And the great thing is it won't hurt the environment since it's in China. Joe and Jill Biden were taking phone calls from families from around the country while watching Santa's flight on NORAD's Santa Tracker. One Oregon father called the Bidens with his kids. At the end of the conversation, he said, "Let's go, Brandon," a term slang for F Joe Biden. At which time, the president responded with, "Yes, let's go, Brandon," with Jill looking down at the floor in dismay. The Twitter mob found his address and phone number, leaving many to call his home and work, leaving death threats. Review sites such as Google Review have had hundreds of people giving his family-run business one-star reviews. Robert De Niro, the famous actor who said F Trump during a Hollywood award show, said, "If he would have just said F Trump, he'd be a star." One NASCAR fan said, "Biden is smarter than I thought." Shockingly, biotech leader says 3 vaccine shots won't stop Omicron variant, leaving one economist saying, "The tide is shifting. In the past, the largest transfer of wealth was oil purchase, but now the largest transfer of wealth is vaccine purchase." Rural areas are about to be hit by a Biden administration policy that put the wants of the major cities above the needs of small towns. Rental assistance that was part of the virus aid package has been spent in an uneven fashion. The White House is going to take what has not been spent, about $23 billion, and give to areas that spent the most money, effectively meaning major cities. Wyoming, Montana, Dakota will be states hardest hit. One supporter of the plan said, "Well, that's what you get when you are bad, just like children. You misbehave, you don't get your allowance." Now maybe they will vote correctly. All the while, the supporter's child is screaming, "I want ice cream!" And the mother saying, okay, just a minute." A Harlem man convicted of manslaughter is likely to become the first convicted killer to enter New York's State Assembly. Gibbs, 54, was convicted of manslaughter in 1988 after pleading guilty. Gibbs served 5.5 years in prison. Prior to his manslaughter conviction for selling crack in the 1980s and involved in a 1977 domestic violence case. One voter explained why she voted for Gibbs. She said that New York is no longer enforcing the law, so I think it's a good idea to have a politician that understands what it's like being a criminal. We need less Batmans and more Jokers in this city, and that's what Gibbs brings to New York. Elf on the Shelf canceled. An ACLU expert said, "The custom of which parents hide the elf throughout the house to trick kids to be on their best behavior is dangerous to kids." One Gen Xer said, "Come on, give me a break. My mother used to move Chucky, the serial killer doll in 80s movies, to scare me, and I turned out just fine." Unvaccinated Americans' trust in government plunges. A new poll found that unvaccinated Americans' trust in government has plummeted during the last year. Turns out that when you continuously lie to people, people begin not to believe you. One person said he didn't trust the government, actually said he didn't trust this poll. He said, "That poll is BS. I've never trusted the government," he said. Is this the same pollster that said Hillary Clinton was going to win the election? Scary turn of events, the man was immediately swept away by men in black suits and a black SUV for the crime of independent thought. So that's all the news that's not fit to print. Please share this with your friends on other social media sites. Click subscribe for further updates. Thanks for watching.